And I know it's 2025, but this has been going on for some years. I remember back in the time when they said that they were gonna help, like, get this big old homeless bill or check that was supposed to go all to homeless. And I remember this time period. And as I said back then, is they weren't helping homeless people back then. They weren't doing anything. What they were doing is they were pocketing a lot of that money, and they were picking and choosing certain individuals, mostly individuals that they either knew or were connected to, or maybe wasn't even really homeless at all, or wasn't on the urge of being homeless, to then help them and give them money, or simply just giving it to illegal aliens or immigrants. And I was like, motherfucker, back then I remember them saying they're giving out money to this, but I'm like, where? It's not getting. And back then I even remember when I was seeing apartment prices. Apartment prices was like doubled all of a sudden. And I'm like, everything's going up, but nobody's really actually trying to help a homeless situation, let alone. And a lot of people like to put homeless as all of them are addicts, druggies, or mentally ill, when in reality, not a lot of them are like that. You know when the ones who are like that because they'll either be on drugs or they'll have some type of schizophrenia or second whatever personality. But for most part, most are not even like that. We're in situations where thus things got too costly, and thus the jobs in which we were working weren't paying enough to even live. This is why back then, as I'm pretty sure it's kind of still now going on, why motherfuckers were damn near working 2 or 3 jobs and still had to live in the car because they weren't able to afford to get a fucking place. And if you're wondering why I said 2 or 3 jobs, you can work 2 part-time jobs and have a side hustle. Lyft, Uber, or Dash, or whatever. Motherfucker, you were literally damn near hustling, and you barely would even be able to live in the house just to be. And there were no like available like places. Everything were just rising and going high. But ultimately, it's like motherfuckers. They always want to label homeless people as being in a certain group where a lot of them are not in that situation due to them being on drugs or mental. They're being in that situation due to how society changed, the the cost of living going up, and basically nobody willing to pay a livable wage for those individuals. That's why then we that's like I said, that's why a lot of Californian had to get multiple jobs, had to work a lot of jobs. This is why prostitution also increased. Women becoming prostitutes because they trying to find. This is why dudes all of a sudden had to live out of the car, started doing other little side hustles while trying to work as well. But it's funny how now in 2025, that they're finally looking into the situation of where all that money that was supposed to go to homelessness has went. And like I said way back then, I knew damn well that these motherfuckers were pocketing a lot of that money. Because I didn't see it go to any homeless people. It wasn't helping no one. They were just pocketing it, and this is why homelessness increased. This is why then you start to see more people, like I said, having to work but still being there living out of the car because they weren't trying to help. They weren't trying to do anything. Thus, the increase of all these things, and yet everybody's looking like, oh, why is so many homeless? And then you got the Californians who are out there, then trying to say, man, get these homeless away from us, or we don't care about, or this and that. Motherfucker, y'all weren't even helping. And most of them were thinking, oh, Well, that money is going to y'all anyway, so why aren't y'all using it? Well, guess what? That money wasn't going to homeless people, wasn't helping homeless people. And now they finally got they got the feds or whatnot finally looking into the fraud. And by all means, if they don't look deep or look hard, they gonna find ways to cover it up. But already they found out that there are things that are unaccounted for, money that's been gone, secure payment. Hilarious. Yeah, what's up? They found out that a lot of money has been used that isn't accounted for. So they don't know what happened or where this money went. Like I said, a lot of motherfuckers was pocketing. Uh, Agencies who were supposedly working weren't really helping. Thanks for the hearts. So now, and then you wonder why so many people were leaving California. Homelessness was one factor. It's a lot of other factors that I'm not gonna get into in this live because I made it directly on homelessness. But this is why a lot of people were leaving, because it's like I'm damn near working this many jobs and I still can't get a place, or I'm damn near uh, trying my best, and yet I still can't buy enough food to live off of, or do blah blah blah, whatever it may be. And then you got all the little fake jobs that people post up, and most of those jobs are damn near to try to steal your social security numbers so they can fucking use your identity. By all means, I'm gonna start posting, because I only got a few days left on this, so I'm gonna start posting. I'm gonna post a chick. There's a Mexican chick who stole my identity and got in an accident somewhere slightly outside of California. And I ended up getting an email being sent to me saying, "Hey, you've been in an accident." I was like, "What the? No, I haven't." And then later, they were like, "We need your insurance, blah blah blah," and all this other stuff. And I'm like, "No, I wasn't in any accident." By the time they somehow got into my insurance then contacted me and said, "We don't have any car that was listed that was in that accident under your insurance." And I was like, "Yeah, because I only got one car." And so that dead ended the individuals who was trying to blame me for an accident that had. And thus I'm glad, because then I had talked to the person who was, "You gotta stay on your ish in Cali and everywhere." Yes, you do. I'm realizing this throughout the states, but I know definitely in Cali. uh, but anyway, then I get their insurance agent, who got the person who got hit by supposedly me, to then send me pictures of me supposedly getting in the accident. And they sent pictures, and this person wasn't even me. It was some Mexican girl who took my identity, like I said, had my identity. I'm pretty sure all they did is, and see, I did some research myself, because I knew putting it in the cops investigation thing so they can do it, I knew it was going to take forever, which I did it anyway. But then I found out that this motherfucker got it from some person who allowed them to have their vehicle. Anyway, it's a long story. But I was like, this motherfucker got my identity. Like, are you serious? And it's a lot of like BS going on. But anyway, high inflation and stupid fake jobs, yes. So a lot of individuals, and I remember, I'm I'm literally telling y'all everything, and by all means, not everything, but by all means, I will look in my archives and see if I still have any recordings of these certain situations. By all means, I have the pictures and the paperwork of the person who was trying to take my identity. I literally have all her shit on file. I don't have her actual name because she used my fucking name and then had a friend use a random other name and then my last name to then proceed to be an American citizen. But I know it was some fake ID bullshit and it was my address and everything used. But uh, there was a situation where I worked somewhere in Oakland, near the Oakland airport, and uh, the people who I work were mostly Mexican who was Hispanic, and this one dude showed me that he had a whole fucking scam going on because he was like he had a bunch of different credit cards, but of course he didn't show me the name, but he was like, I can get you. But mind you, the place in which we worked, our manager, uh, his office was open. It wasn't like he locked up anything, so everything was accessible. Meaning, our information, our social security, our our ID, our license, or whatever copies that you need to make in order to get a job and do all that stuff was accessible to anybody and everybody. And the thing is, since his office was not really an office where it was closed off and nobody can get into, in which his name was it was Mario. He was also Mexican, but uh, the one dude who then showed me a bunch of credit cards that he had made, I was like, okay, cool. And in this situation, during this time period, I can damn near show you this as well, because this is when I started getting credit attacks on my credit score. People were damn near trying to make uh, credit cards or start credit cards with various things. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? And it only started when I had got to that job in Oakland. And I'm like, what? And then I'm remembering the one Mexican dude was kind of brandishing that he got all these credit cards and he can pay for anything, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, are you serious? Thinking about the situation where all our files are accessible to anybody, and the manager of that branch didn't have any lock or anything where it made it where nobody could get in or touch those things. It then made me like, oh wow, so this is how he's making all these credit cards and having all these little things going on. So at that point, once that the credit attack started happening, I had to do the disputes, I had to do all this other stuff. I damn near remember I had to wait over a year before it could clear off my credit. But while in that time, I completely froze my credit. That way, nobody can touch it. And literally, I think it was like 2 years had passed, and then I ended up hearing that somebody tried to make start a credit, but they couldn't because they didn't have access. And I ended up getting something that kind of alerted me, and I was like, they waited. That's why you might, if for all of y'all out there, freeze your credit. If you found some bullshit and you can dispute it and get it off, whatnot, and by all means, even if you don't have anything, freeze your credit. Just freeze it, keep it frozen, and only unfreeze it when you're about to do something that requires them to then look into your credit, or you may start a credit card. So by all means, do that. Unfreeze it, and then once you've done that process, then freeze it again, and then keep it frozen. That way, now you got the credit. Now you can go on and do whatever you want to do with it, and nobody can then try to kind of get it and then try to do something with it. But by all means, there's some crooked shit, and everybody likes to paint black people as the ones doing all these things. But mind you, I've been in California for the longest. I'm born and raised out there, and I've been able, over the years, I've been starting to kind of document various things to kind of show that it ain't us. It's not predominantly us, even though they like to paint us as the ones doing all these things. It's not. Anyway, back to the homelessness, is that why you seeing a lot of people leave, especially as black people. I mean, this is one factor. There's a lot of other factors, but one other factor is because we're trying to leave and find other places that are more affordable, that we can damn near work one job and still be able to manage that, or be able to have a place to live and stay, and not work like a various jobs just to try to get a place, and may not even end up getting a place, and still won't be able to really pay off that place, or do bills or whatnot. Of course, as well as the racism, the discrimination, and the workplace discrimination, and the wages discrimination, and other things. I made a video. If you want to see more of what I talked about a lot of this kind of more, slightly in more detail in some of my shorts, my earlier shorts, and some of my, well, I would say my oldest shorts, and I also made something more recent where it's like the why men are leaving the workforce. I made some videos on that, kind of explaining some of the situations. So yeah, it's a lot of BS going on, and now you're gonna finally get to see why, because people are scandalous out there, and yet it's like, okay, we don't want you homeless around, but yet you're stealing money that what should have been there to help them get back into society, get back to working, back to being able to obtain the basic necessities as a home, a wife, or a girlfriend, or a job, or a decent living. So it's like, okay, it's some BS out there. But anyway, that's about all I'm going to talk about for today, because the topic was mostly on homelessness. Thank you for the people who had chimed in or said hello. Hi, I don't have a place. Joseph Miller, uh, I understand. I said it is hard out here. And then OMG, can't believe that. You gotta stay on your ish in Cali everywhere. Yeah, I think I responded to that. High inflation. Yep, that is true. And guess who owned a lot of the gas stations? Middle Easterns. So they were up in the cost of gas and that other stuff. And back then, I remember they were doing it. They were doing it just because they were like, hey, it seems like a slight influx of money, so let's bump the prices up, so then we can kind of grab more of your funds out. Like what? Greed, greed, and a bunch of other stuff. But I would like to go into detail about the other stuff, but I'm just gonna stay mainly on the homelessness topic. But bravo for them to finally look into where all that money went to actually help homeless when it wasn't doing anything. It was being pocketed. And what was happening, I'll tell you what was happening, because I do have a recording. What was happening during the time is every little city was finding the homelessness that they had, gathering them up, and then having them sent out to LA. That's what they were doing. They were gathering up the homeless that either no longer had either a vehicle in which they can live out of, or no longer could afford certain things. And what they'll do is, hey, do you want help? they would then be like, okay, they'll gather them up and then send all of them to LA and then drop them off and then leave them there. And thus the homelessness grew out there, or grew into various areas in which they gathered them up. That's all they were doing. They weren't really helping or trying to change the other ones out. And then a lot of the homeless shelters, to be frank, a lot of them are, they only allow certain individuals to get in. And it's pretty much women and children first. And then the either sometime, majority of the time, mentally deranged individuals. And that's why you end up hearing a lot of the women and children say that they were almost assaulted or assaulted in those, because look at the men who are there allowing to be in the homeless shelters than the other ones who are not. It's like, okay, well, and then the fact that you're only allowing women and children, that means there's a whole sector of men that are not even getting help or anything. This is why they say this is why they say even in the dating world, women have so many outlets, so they can damn near, they can be in any type of rut and have an outlet to make their lives. They're basically on easy mode most of the time. Where men, damn near, we don't have damn near none, almost none, no real outlets. And if we're considered a certain age or whatever, then damn near you know you ain't gonna get no help. It's pretty much, hey, fend for yourself. If you can't really do that, then hey, go ahead and die. And I remember back then they had this whole thing where they changed it because, uh, man, I should not talk about it because it's a whole different topic. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. Peace. I'm out.